I think we should be good to go. AI is set to transform all the major industries, including telecom. The size of the global AI in the telecommunication industry is estimated to grow for almost $4 billion in 2025 to over $50 billion in 2032, with a CAGR of 43%. And it's not going to enhance only customer service, but also security, network efficiency, data analytics, privacy, and many other sectors or functions in the telecom industry. Hi, this is Pankaj Gupta from EthAum Venture Partners. We are a zero-BS revenue scaler and fund based in Singapore with approximately 120 startups in our portfolio. These startups come from different parts of the world, different stages, sectors, including telecom. Since telecom is going through interesting times, PureSight, one of our portfolio startups, and EthAum wanted to brainstorm with the leaders themselves and learn from their insights. We are thrilled to host a very diverse and global panel to discuss AI innovations, transforming the telecom space, and digital safety. To start with the introductions, I would request Tara to go ahead and do a quick intro, please. Tara? You're mute.
Thanks, Pankaj. My name is Tara Fosbre. I'm a technology executive and board member and former Guardian Life Insurance.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Tara. Appreciate your time today. Stephen, may I request you to go next, please?
Yeah, Stephen McBride. I've been with Wilson Connectivity for the last 7-8 years. We are on the cell phone signal amplification side, so that on the RF was able to get inside the buildings. And I've just started my new venture, expanding into how AI can be a little bit more leveraged.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Stephen. I appreciate your time today. May I request Paul to go next, please?
So my name is Paul Wertz, and I'm CEO of SherpaWorks. I've been in telecom for 35 years or so, retired from AT&T a couple of years ago, starting my own business. Focused on cybersecurity, telecom, and I'm working with the federal government primarily.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Paul. Appreciate your time today. Amitabh, may I request you to introduce yourself, please?
Of course, Amitabh Satyam. Started with Cablevision in Philadelphia and Long Island, and then been working in telecom for about 20-some years. And the last few years, I've been running smart transformations, focusing on industrial IoT.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Amitabh, for your time today. Thanks all the panelists for joining us today. I'm sure we are going to have a very insightful, interesting conversation. Now I would request Royi, CEO and founder of PureSight, to introduce himself. And since he's the moderator of the session, he has a lot of responsibility to make sure that this session is engaging and fun. Royi, please go ahead, unmute yourself and introduce.
Thank you, Pankaj, and thank you for all the panelists that join us today. My name is Royi Cohen. I'm the CEO of PureSight. PureSight is a leading vendor that provides online child safety services for parents around the globe. And obviously, telecom is one of the channels that we are operating. So this is me, and very nice to meet you all. And let's start with the questions. So, Paul, let's start with you. I saw that you bring a lot of experience from your role in AT&T, and I want to get your opinion about the first question that talking about is digital risk involved for fraud and phishing and harassment and misinformation. What should be the role of the telecom play in safeguard users beyond just providing the pipe?
So AT&T has a long history of working very closely with the government. In fact, at some point in time last century, they were owned by the federal government. So they've had this really good working relationship. And so there's a lot of stuff that they do on the back end, and they need to continue to do that as all of the attacks rise, the threat vectors, where they're coming from, who's doing it, what they're doing. Those can be seen at the network level around the AT&T's network around the world. What they haven't been great at is actually in including the general public in that, right? Having a product, and they do have some that are out there that are helping reduce spam, helping reduce attacks and stuff like that. But it's an ever evolving thing. So I think AT&T, from a regulatory point of view, has a large responsibility, and then from the consumer point of view, they really have the responsibility. But it's also like an education and inclusion. Like, so, if I say I'm going to charge you so much money for this service, a lot of times with cybersecurity, we all know that we don't think it's necessary until you get hacked. And then you're like, oh, holy cow, why didn't I know? So there's a large part of education, and you really need to make sure that it's included in a lot of the basic, table stakes for the clients that are out there.
Yeah, thank you. I like the analog of the internet to the road. And for when I do that, I see the telecom is like the company that is building the road. And we expect this company to provide us safe environment so I will be able to drive safely in the road. For the other side, I cannot take their responsibility to all the crazy people that are driving the road and can hurt other users. So maybe Tara, you can maybe provide your ideas about this also.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. I think it is the responsibility of the telcos to be that gatekeeper of customer trust. So they are the ones that have it at the network level. And I think there's a lot more that they can be doing, especially as it relates to awareness and educating consumers and really meeting them where they are, right? The most vulnerable users are probably users that aren't using mobile apps or they're not online, right? So I think there needs to be more of a spray of awareness and educating, and then back to Paul, what Paul said about the table stakes.
Interesting. So both of you talking about education and awareness, and this is something that is sound reasonable.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
For Paul. I mean, why does the carriers, where does it, we're circling around a little bit. Why do the carriers care? They built the road, they've done their job. Their job is to make sure that the road's not broken, where you have the, where you're not getting attacks on the actual connection. But when it comes to the use, I'm trying to understand the carrier responsibility. It'd be ideal to have them do everything, but I just don't think that that's their job. I don't know.
Oh, so that's an excellent. Go ahead.
Hi, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Lee Friedman. I'm with AT&T for the past 30 years. I'm in cloud services right now, but I think I'm moving into CSO's security soon. The answer for why the telcos, why we as a community are looking at this and starting to actually provide products is that it's, from a marketing standpoint, first of all, it's a differentiation. We can not only give you fast internet speed with low latency, but you'll be safer. And the safety part, the security part, whether it's for children or adults, is extremely in the public eye at this point. We don't have to tell. The strange thing is we don't have to tell average consumers, especially parents, and even my 92-year-old mother is very aware about security. She's afraid to open email sometimes. So she calls me and she says, is this okay? But so the awareness is there. They're like, but where do I go to get the safety? And there's a lot of products out there. And they don't want to have to sit through this. They don't want to have to install it. They don't want to have to manage it. It's just another pain in the neck thing for people that aren't software people. So it's like, well, what if I can give you a service that's built into your broadband or built into the telco network, whether it's wireless, wireline, fiber, whatever, that gives you certain levels of protection that you can have, and then you can manage what your kids are able to access as well. And there's a great appeal for that, because that means that the telco is making sure that it's running. All I have to do is use it. And there's a big appeal to that. And
Yeah.
it's one-stop shopping, right? If I have a problem, I call support at AT&T. I'm not calling, Avast or some other company whose product I put in and had to install and everything and manage.
Okay.
But part of the mix on that also is the history, right? So there's so much legacy. In Georgia, there's a public service commission that actually, if you have a problem with your telecom services, you can file a complaint. So it's who is regulating you, who are your customers, like alternatively, so if you look at the wireless world, just a few years ago, there were 3 or 4 cellular carriers, but now you've got, the satellite stuff that's coming on board, and you've got resale agreements through some of the cable carriers. So you have the competition is out there, and what it is how can you differentiate yourself? What products do you bring to market? How do you secure that? And so AT&T, because they are such a large company, they really battle that on all fronts. So you've got the regulatory issues you have to deal with. You've got the older products, and to Lee's point, some of the stuff that's older, the 91-year-old mother, like my mother will not use an app on her phone. She'll go to a computer and get on it, but you're actually safer on the app on the cellular network than you are on your home. But conceptually, she can't understand that. So, AT&T does these at all levels, up and down. And so they have to pick their battles. They have to, at the end of the day, they also have to make money. And they do legal defense, like how are we not going to get sued? How are we not going to get, show up on 60 Minutes?
Yeah. So I think it's a complex phenomenon, and we will talk maybe more about this, why they are trying to do that. But let's go to the next one. And Stefan, I saw that you are posted some post regarding AI, and I want to get your maybe ideas about what are some of the most promising use case where telecom enable AI that can proactively identify and neutralize online threats.
Yeah, I'm not an online threat expert, but
No.
I am looking at AI to when it comes to there's this little thing that I'm not sure it 100% answers your question. There's a little thing that's happening. Everybody's using these chat GPTs and Groks, and what's slowly happening is that I wrote an article on this if anybody's interested in sharing it. But I'm taking a look at how kids or anybody else are outsourcing their everything, their thoughts, their papers. I mean, I met a kid the other day who said, "Yeah, I just wrote a paper all in AI. I didn't have to do anything." And so I'm not sure what the telcos have to do with that, but we just kind of need to call timeout and say how do we maybe it goes down to parents and families and schools, do the education, and maybe AT&T can and the other telcos can help educate the world that way. But I have to say, with AT&T, there's something I really like with them, is that they've installed this system called FirstNet. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but it's a system where emergency responders at any time can have their own telecom, network or band that they apply if they're going into a school or going into a hospital or into a home with an emergency. They're able to ensure that they have access to the communications that they need. So I appreciate AT&T. That's kind of a side note. But when it comes to AI, I think it's wide open. We haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
I will tell you, AT&T does use some AI to identify certain types of downloads. Like if you have illegal content, and so I have 7 children, so my kids have actually stressed my network out quite a bit. One of them was downloading a movie that he wanted to watch that wasn't available to purchase yet. And I got an alert from AT&T saying, "Hey, stop." This is illegal activity, and up to and including they will shut your internet off if you keep doing it. So they are out there actively monitoring it. I mean, the question is, how quickly can you adapt? Because the criminals are out there adapting every day to get stuff out there. And then what do you want to do with it? I mean, it's pretty easy to say, stop doing it or we're going to shut you off. But what if you are able to figure out some illegal activity or things that might be suspicious? What are the legal ramifications that I know, like a lot of times the FBI has to get search warrants to get stuff from AT&T. But if we identify it, what is the legal aspect that we have to report it? So those things are ongoing.
Hey, Roy,
Yeah.
can I come in for a second?
Yes, sure.
So I think we should disconnect the moral and legal part of the business of telecom operators from the technological capabilities. And I mean, if you're looking at solving a problem using tech, then I guess the conversation would be more about what are the possibilities using tech to actually enable a telecom to actually execute and provide these services. Yes, with 5G, we are able to go deeper into the content, and but that's too expensive for a telecom to look into all the content of all these packets, like trillions and trillions of gigabits per second, etc. So we have to figure out some sort of we should not be putting too much weight on the telecom. I love the example, like everybody does as well, like the road concept. The road is just making sure that the road works fine. It is impossible for the road operator to look inside each car and tell what's going on and who's traveling, etc. So therefore, yes, technology today, telecom and digital world, which is computing and AI, etc., are merging, and that would enable a newer set of services. Maybe 5G gives you a certain higher sense of security. 6G would give you even more. So we can look into solutions we are able to figure out, and that's the conversation I thought we're going to have now, is how AI can come in and look at the packets and look at the entire transport network, etc., and figure out either a way to detect fraud or malice of any kind.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yes, actually, I want to continue with you, Amitabh. My next question, we started to tackle it in the fragment digital landscape. Who should be held accountable for digital safety? Is it the telco? We ask this, or the company that provide the digital platform, like the social network companies, or the regulators? And how do we bridge the gap between them? Because there's a lot of entity, and what will be the right solution for that?
You said the application provider versus the infrastructure provider.
Yeah, we talk about the telecom. This is one entity. We talk about the company that provide the digital platform like Meta, Snapchat, and other. And we talk about the regulator, the government, that might be the one that in charge of this kind.
Well, the regulator part is very clear. They just want to make sure there is no crime. So that would be that one-line target for them, that we don't want any crime or any unsafe packets or unsafe business going on. But how do you regulate to a point where it can be done? And that is where the technology comes in. Now, like I said, there is if you go deeper into how the packets are moving through the network, you may be able to get some insights into what kind of data is coming from where and to whom. So that is one first line that you actually can execute using telecom. But the bigger responsibility, in my opinion, stays with the platform or the app provider. For example, Facebook or any other similar platforms, if they're giving you something, they have a higher responsibility of ensuring, and they must have those gates to check, because they are supposed to have the technology, the data, they manage the data part. The telecom manages the road part. So they need to understand the data more than the guy who's bringing the data to you. So I would put more weight on That's the platform providers. I would say 90% is to 10.
Very interesting. But I want to challenge the panel here because I understand that the social platforms has more data and the data is available and they can examine it. But can we put the responsibility of this private company to be the police enforcement for the digital world? This is something that maybe Tara, you have an opinion on that.
Yeah, thanks. I agree and I disagree, but I fundamentally think that given the complexity and the multiple layers in the stack, it's shared accountability. I think Telco has responsibility for the road, as we've said. So what type of network blocking and safeguarding can they do at the network layer? Then I think you have the platforms and the applications. They need to be engineered better to protect data. You know, another big thing would be the companies themselves, holding them accountable. You know, is there still a challenge where data is being sold off? Customer data is being sold out, right? So where is that sort of enforced? And then I think phone manufacturers. So what can they be doing to build better protections into the devices? And then I think your regulators and your legislators are sort of that overarching body that, you know, governs all of this. But I think a lot of each of these players has a piece of this accountability.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, I can look at it, you know, if we go back to the road analogy, which by the way, I really like. But so you have vehicles on the road, and one of the easiest things that we can do in the telco world is find out where are these cars coming from and where are they going to? Right. And that's, again, that's almost a first line of defense of if I see a .ru, I want to take a closer look at that. Okay. Or I may pass it on to another entity that's going to take a closer look at that. I agree with what Tara said about it's a combined responsibility. We have to be responsible for what's on the road. So, for example, denial of service attacks. I mean, you know, we can easily detect them. We can easily prevent them. Hosting providers do the same thing. They start to see an attack, they block it, right? There are different levels that these things can be done. And yeah, you know, email providers that are allowing all kinds of crazy spam and phishing expeditions come across, and Meta and the others. The problem that we've seen, though, to be frank, is that these companies are not, the companies providing these services like Meta are not really good at policing themselves and have actually backed off of policing themselves for fear of interfering with free speech. So that's the other problem that we all have to deal with, is there are regulatory limits on what it is that we can do, because if we screw up and do it wrong and block the wrong things, then we're responsible for that, and that could have bad consequences for customers. So it's something we have to keep in mind, because they'll slap down on us real hard if we screw up. And we've seen it in the news with either people or other things. And I know Stephen brought up FirstNet, and yeah, that's a very secure private set of networks that are used to deploy not only to help the first responders in these bad situations, but if there's a hurricane or fires, we deploy trucks and create FirstNet networks so that everybody can talk, and we even interact with the different local municipalities to plug them in, but we do it with a high level of security and a lot of secure connection protocols to make sure that we don't have bad agents getting into a FirstNet network and screwing around with things. But
See, part of that
everybody's responsibility.
I mean, part of that issue is that when you're talking about using AI and where AI can really help is you're identifying behavior and activities, right? So, and in order to do that, I need a pattern. So you're going to get some activity before I can identify you. When you're talking about working with the federal government or working with something like FirstNet, it's more about who you are. I don't let you on FirstNet unless I know who you are. Are you a legitimate first responder? And they get a special SIM card, they get special access, but it's the identity and access management. And I mean, anybody, you can go down to the public library, you can go by hotspot, you can go anywhere and get on the internet, and you don't need to say who you are or what you're doing. So if we have everybody on the internet, from children to hardened criminals to some levels of government and private businesses, you have to look at what's their behavior like, what are they doing before you can clamp down. So it's a much harder world, and that's where AI can really make a difference, because they can say every time Paul comes on, here's what Paul does. And Google is pretty good at that, because you can look at my when the Google page comes up, you see like the last 10 pages that I was at. So they know what I want a lot of times before I do. And AI is going to get better and better and better at that. But at some point in time, they have to identify patterns. There's going to be damage before they can identify it.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul,
Oh,
identifying yourself is a solved problem. Even in public Wi-Fi and other places, or our own internet connection at home or on the mobile phone, the operators can be told to require identification. Like in India, we can't just log into our Wi-Fi without sharing them our phone number, which is connected to our identity. If we can just we don't have a burner phone here.
You're
So that
exactly
is
right.
possible just by regulation. It doesn't need technology.
In America, they're really reluctant to do that.
I agree.
What they'd rather do is tell Meta, you guys need to regulate yourself.
Right. So it's a matter of regulation, not a matter of technology. Right.
Yeah, I think that we can agree that the solution is not so simple and involves different entity, regulator, telecom, the company, the private company, and we need to figure out the gap between this entity in order to provide it. But let's go to the next question. Yes.
Just a moment. I think JCT wanted to add something. JCT, you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. I would go back. A great conversation. I appreciate everybody. I'm going to go back to the analogy and reshape it a little bit. It's a great analogy. I would say the freeway would be the global network. The individual carriers are the cars. Now, I think Paul made a comment and Lee, gave a really good answer, which his answer was marketing. The individual cars on the freeway, in my analogy, are the individual companies, whether it be Lumen, Verizon, Comcast, AT&T. When you go to buy a car, you get what you pay for. If you want cheap, it might not be a very reliable car. If you want to spend a lot of money and be in a very safe car, historically a Volvo, right? Then you're going to spend a little bit more. Now, I cannot quote the actual federal regulation, but I do know that it's out there, that says if a network provider doesn't take best efforts to protect their network, the analogy is like leaving a loaded pistol in a cul-de-sac of a neighborhood where children could play, right? So I do think there is a responsibility, but there's always going to be a gap. Every time we come up with a solution as a carrier, the bad actors find another creative way to subvert that. Now, I'll give you one example. I'm not affiliated with them. I was an advisor to them several years ago. But it's a great example how I would say AI or assisted AI, right, can be a great stopgap. So there's a company called Human Security, humansecurity.com. And what they do, if you go on to, log on to your bank account, for example, and the 20, 30-year-old reCAPTCHA little, screen thing that you have to enter in to make sure it's not fraud. That technology is old and it's out of date, and it can be broken very easily. What human security does as an assisted AI is it tracks, I think, over 800 behavioral items like Paul was talking about. For example, how fast does the cursor move from the login ID to the password box? If it's instantaneously, people don't work that fast, right?
Yeah.
Then there are 800 tells that says that's probably, you know, a bad actor using a software program to try to hack into your bank account. So I do think that there's a responsibility for network providers to do best effort in keeping with that federal regulation. But I do think that there are companies that provide extra, more specialized vertical assistance, like human security as my example, that can go that extra effort that's more of a platform versus a network.
Very interesting. Thank you. I want to go back to the telecom and ask you, are telecom doing enough to adopt digital safety innovation? And what will expedite the adoption even further? Is it a new technology, regulation, customer demand, or a different mindset? Who want to maybe start with this?
Can I have a first shot on this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So even during the CDR days, when we didn't have a digital network, when we would just analyze the call data records and understand who's calling who at what time and how frequently and for how long, we were able to create some sort of intelligence about the possible terrorists or criminals. So we were able to do that even when the data was very limited. Now, I think the data is a lot more. The only way you can get deeper into the traffic, where you are able to figure out the network of each person, and you have to go inside the packets. I mean, I keep going to that concept. Without that, it's going to be impossible for you to, yes, you can talk about, for example, if I'm logging into certain kind of website frequently, you can judge my behavior. That all the websites do. That's kind of a standard approach. But from there to detect a certain criminal behavior, it is almost impossible. So the regulation would be limited in terms of, yeah, I just want to finish this. The regulation would allow you to know who is the person, but what that person is doing would still require technology.
Okay, so it's a mix. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
frankly, I'll go back to the basics of your question. You know, are the telcos doing enough? We know you can never do enough. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly getting worse. This is why we need to use AI, because it's a constant learning and readjusting experience to maintain security. And frankly, it's actually an AI battle, because if we're using AI to help avoid it, you got to realize that the bad actors are using AI to get past it. So, you know, it is a cyber war.
Yeah.
And AI has now become another weapon in the arsenal on both sides to do things. On the regulation side, that's another not problem, but that's another area that we have to be careful of. There's a lot of things we could probably do, okay? But we know through the regulations that we follow, we can't do them. There's only so much we can do with people's private information, okay? You know, all of our subscribers, we know where you live, you know, we've got gateways in your house. We've got phones that have specific identifiers in them. So we know who you are. What's even worse is, if we wanted to, we could know where you are, but we're not doing that. Okay. If you do that, that's because you're using that feature on your phone to know where your friends and family are, but we're not doing that. But these things exist out there, and, you know, depending on what happens with regulations, that either lets us look deeper into things or keeps us out of people's information, or keeps us out of not just people's, but any information that could actually be a bad actor. And it's a balancing act.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
one of the things when you're talking about a balancing act like that is that you have to balance the existing stuff with the stuff you want to do, right? So AT&T has a billing relationship with 100 million people at least. And just to be clear, I don't work at AT&T. I worked with them for many years, but so they've got a billing relationship with 100 million people. And if you're in product development or if you want to make a change, it's a much different discussion than if you have a startup that is launching a new product with 0 customers. You can create your world when you're starting from scratch. AT&T's been around for 150, 160 years, and they've got legacy products that have been around for many, many years. So if I make a change that's going to impact a significant portion of them, you have to expect a lot of those may not be happy. If you're making a change to billing, if you're making a change to the way they get on the internet, the way they have to identify themselves, things like that are going to be impacting to the users. And so there is a resistance to change old stuff, just out of a lethargy, because you have to fight a battle every time you do something with 100 million people. I mean, look at where all of the new activity is in voice. You're looking at all the digital voice and stuff like that. AT&T could do that, decades ago, but they didn't launch it as a product. You saw competitors launching stuff like that, and then AT&T was in a position where, they're trying to develop stuff to be in that space as well.
Interesting. Thank you. We reached my final question. The entire I directed for you. So if telecom will fail to act now on digital safety, what are the long-term effects, both for users and for the industry itself? Is it something that will affect it?
Glad you get that to her.
I think for companies, it's the potential for brand and reputational harm, quite possibly companies not making it, which could lead to another set of issues around a monopoly of service providers. It's really an opportunity for them to step up, because digital safety could be both a business enabler and a revenue generator. And then I think for consumers, vulnerable customers will be at greater risk for exploitation, which could have devastating consequences for them. So I think that gets to what we talked about earlier around awareness and teaching and protecting, which I think falls in line at all layers of the stack.
Okay. Any other thoughts about this?
No, it's protection of the brand. I mean, you have a brand that you have to take care of, storied legacy, whatever, and you have to balance that with the your using population. What's going to happen there?
Okay. So thank you guys. For me, it was very interesting that you share your insight about the question that I raised. It helped me understand more about the challenges of this market, the telecom market, and the other entity in this. So thank you for that.
If I may ask one additional question, I understand that telecom companies have been extremely innovation friendly. They have been adopting new innovative solutions very well. They have been working with the startup ecosystem very well. But still, we see challenges with the adoption of startup ecosystem in the corporate life, especially when it comes to telecom companies adopting these solutions. And sometimes these solutions are not able to go on full implementation. They are not able to see a good growth inside those telco companies. What do you see where the challenge is, how the big organizations and startups can work well, they can collaborate well and be good partners in bringing this innovation in the forefront. Any thoughts on that from any of the panelists?
Well, did you say that telecoms have an opportunity to integrate more security features,
More
either
startup
by
solutions.
themselves or by using startups, and then why aren't they doing it? I
Yeah.
think they are doing it. In fact, if you look at it, uh, sadly, for between 4G and 5G for the last 10 years, there haven't been any fundamental structural changes in telecom. So it's kind of a dead space when it comes to R&D. I know people are working on 6G and there are many good things have been happening, but not a structural fundamental change. Now, the change that would come would be from AI. And I'm glad that this topic is very interesting just because of that. Because even 20 years ago, we used to talk about how AI can help, or the word AI we didn't use, but data analytics can use, so many different things used, like as you introduced. I think AI startups in particular are creating solutions which are directly applicable in telecom situations, especially quality of service and security. If you look at the typical telecom in 5G or packets, etc., you can control what kind of quality you can deliver and who to deliver and by how much. So once you have that control, AI can come in and start tuning your everything. So the solution can very well be tuned with AI. So I think AI is the way to get into this new solution space, which apparently is missing for some time. But I think there have been some changes. But yes, AI is the way to go.
I think to your point, you were talking about the 5G. All of the Gs before that were essentially tweaking the system. But when you got the 5G and you virtualized the network, you separated a lot of the functionalities from the hardware. I think once you do that, and then now you're going to add on AI, it's almost a magical environment. It's like what is possible, and so you really have to make sure you take a step back and say, okay, how do I want to define this? Because there is so many things you're capable of now that you've decoupled that.
I think, Pankaj, I'd just like to add that in terms of partnering, I think there's a lot of opportunity for the big telcos to partner with some of these startups to really help leapfrog some of these solutions. And it might be easier for them to implement in smaller pockets in terms of their user base by doing that.
Yeah,
That's quite.
Pankaj, the only thing that I would maybe add would be, I think there is a large opportunity to partners. That's a lot of my body of work has been working with VCPE firms and taking them to market with larger companies. The only thing that is a barrier that has to be overcome is for the larger companies to take a relatively new startup with maybe a fantastic, innovative solution and taking a chance on that when it's kind of unproven. So the tighter the use cases, the more solid the technology that answers all of the security questions and what problems does it solve. The more that the AI or startup can de-risk a business decision for a larger network provider, the easier it's going to be.
Essentially,
But see, Justin.
Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I was going to say, Justin, when you look at all the legacy stuff, companies like Comcast coming in, looking at it from a different point of view, having different back-end systems and all, you guys approach the problems differently, and so you come up with different solutions, and then you're forcing other people to say, they might not have been opened up enough to think about that. So you guys are changing the game when you come in and do that. So I think the marketplace is really vital here, where there's, again, you used to think of one phone company, then they broke it up and you had the baby bells. Now in every market, if I want to have a landline service, I generally have an option of half a dozen services, but a lot of people just go among the wireless services. So, so you've got easily, 5 or 10 options, and it's going to be, price is always, think is king, but the features are there too. Do they meet me where I want? Do they give me the features I want? And you do see, private secure email services. You need private secure phones. All this stuff is out there. It's just the marketplace of ideas is battling it out.
And one of the concerns that I would have for most telecom companies is that most of the legacy telecom companies, like the ones like AT&T and others, it's a very messy architecture. They have 1G and 6G coming together. Then they have a whole range of OSS and BSS solutions. And this is very complex for them to execute anything. If they have all 5G only, then it would be much easier. But they have a combination of architectures on the network as well as the OSS, BSS side. It's going to be extremely, extremely hard, if not impossible.
It's not, yes, we have lots of old legacy stuff, but there are junction points where we can attack many of these problems. I mean, even with our cell towers, right? The cellular service, yeah, you got the radios out there, but eventually it comes to a tower and it goes down to a fiber. And then it's like, okay, it's in it's in one of our big wheelhouses now. So there are certain points that we can put a stake in the ground, and we have put a stake in the ground to be able to, and the other telcos, I mean, we're not the only ones on the planet doing this by any means, but you can find these junction points and say, let's start here. What can we do to add, the service assurances that we want to be able to give at these points? Okay.
And the flip side of that, Lee, too, is
that
also
can cover a rather large number of customers, immediately.
With Lee, the flip side of that also is you have something called graceful degradation, right? So if you have all of these capabilities, when it fails, does it fail to one of your older technologies that might be more widespread or more stable? So it is really a multi-pronged approach that they have to take.
Absolutely.
AT&T is not the only one out there, not to knock on it, but we're familiar with it. It's a very difficult multi-layered world that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. I'm absolutely delighted to see this enthusiasm with this conversation. Really, really, love this conversation. And I'm sure that we could have continued for even more time, but we will have to move on to the next segment of this event, which is roast session. And this is a very interesting segment because in this particular part of the event, startup founders are able to pitch their presentation. They are able to talk about their product and get brutal, honest feedback from the industry leaders. So there is no sugarcoating. There is no, sweet lies. It's the bitterest truth, which can help founders learn about their own solution, differentiation, go-to-market strategy, improve it, and grow very, very quickly. So I would request panelists to be very, very open. Don't hesitate. Don't hold back. Ask as many questions, direct questions as possible, and give very candid feedback to Royi once he goes through the presentation. So Royi, floor is yours. Please feel free to share your screen, walk us through PureSight solution, and let's get some interesting feedback.
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate and welcome the feedback here. So as I mentioned, in PureSight, we are providing AI-based online child safety services. And I believe that you are already familiar, but the reason why we are doing it is that we are recognized that the children are in great dangers on the digital platform. 2 out of 3 teenagers are being cyberbullying or sextorting, all kinds of phenomena on the digital that lead to depression. And studies show today that these kids are 12 times more likely to commit suicide. And sadly, this situation happening is a global phenomenon. In addition, the statistics show that there are 500,000 online active predators trying to reach our kids on any time of day in the day. And with the social platform, it's become more and more easier for them to reach our kids directly. And as a result, 50% of the sex crime are on social media. And one of the challenges for parents today that only 1 out of 10 kids will report this abuse to his parents. So we understand today that knowing your child in the physical world is knowing only half of your child. You can sit with your kids at home, he's sitting next to you, holding a mobile device, and you don't know who is talking with him, what content he's seeing, or what he's doing there. And this is a real problem, a real challenge for us. And this problem is getting bigger because they are facing more and more with these platforms. The good news is that we are seeing that parents are looking for solutions. After COVID, both Apple, Microsoft, and Google released their freemium services that actually educate the market, the parents, that they can use these kinds of tools to overcome these challenges. And we see a dramatically increase in the numbers of parents that are using some kinds of parental control application. Start checking their browser history, start trying to limit the screen time of videos and games. And this leads to a huge market that is being expected to rise to 45 billion by 2030. And the product that we are providing is including all what we call the basic standard parental control features or the freemium services that are focused in screen time and the ability to manage the app and game usage of the kids and provide location services like what Family Link and Apple Screen Time providing. But what we are doing is taking this to the next level and integrate our unique AI technology in order to provide more features. The first one is advanced AI internet filtering. We are relying on our AI engine that is capable to classify web pages based on their content and not just based on the address. This gives the real solution for parents that want to block inappropriate content from his kids. Because most parents will agree that an 8-year-old child should not be seeing all the adult content that's available today in the internet. In addition, we are providing what we call the social media protection. The motivation behind this is this: we see more and more parents that understand the dangers or the challenges that happen to our kids on the social platform at night when the kids are going to sleep. Take the kids' devices and start searching if something happened on the social platform. Boycott, cyberbullying, pedophile, they're exposed to dangerous trends. There are a lot of bad things that happen, and parents are become very worried. But this is not an easy task. Taking the child device, we need to know the password, we need to know the platform, and then we need to go 1,000 messages per day per kids. It's not so practical. So the service that we are providing that is capable to monitor the analyzing all the conversation of the kids on this platform and analyzing through our smart engine that can identify this event and send alert to the parents, letting know that something happened and giving the information and the ability to react is a valid service today for parents. Although AI and machine learning are great, we understand that we need to add the human factor. And in order to do that, we establish our content research lab that is built for content researchers that research the platform that the kids are using and identify 3 main tasks. First, to identify the language that the kids are using. We saw that in the digital platform, kids are using different language. It's not a speaking, not a written language. It's the digital slang. And our researchers identify it, update the knowledge base so that our smart engine are using in order to catch the content. In addition, we need to identify the new trends, the new that is published every day, every week, worldwide. And in order to make sure that once there is a new trend, we will be able to recognize it and identify and send the alert to the parents. And lastly, this content research lab also monitoring application that is not appropriate to the kids, because we cannot expect a regular parent to got familiar with all the inappropriate application, and by default our service will block this use by the kids. At the end, we provide a 24/7 cross-device monitoring capability on the activity of the kids in order to provide the information to the parent to be able to be involved in their kids' digital life. When we approach telecom, we try to address a few KPIs. The first KPIs is differentiation their proposition. Telecom are working in a very competitive market. And as a user, it's not a big issue for me if I get the SIM from Verizon or AT&T. It will work the same. So because everyone is selling the same stuff, it's hard to differentiate the offer. When we are working with the telecom, we give them the ability to differentiate the offer when they're approaching the family segment by providing family bundles that including multiple line, for instance, including our family protection service, and then give them the ability to differentiate their offering and bring more new customers to their company. In addition, we provide them the ability to increase sales for existing customers because we provide a value-added services that they can charge more for existing customers. And last one is the reduced churn. We see that customers that are using our service compared to the others has a reducing churn by 15%, 15%. And the logic behind this is that if I have a customer that get the service from my operators and install the protection on all of my devices, I will think twice to move to another competitor that give me a discount because then I need to restart the service. Yes.
Just a moment. Lee has to drop at 12. Can we take a question from him if there's any? Lee?
Yeah, sure. Lee, any questions?
No, I'm just absorbing. I like the thinking behind this. I like the approach.
Thanks a lot,
for
Lee.
the AI in this, because you're right. They don't use, the language of hate is very different and is symbolic more than it is, any particular language. And that resonated very strongly with me because I haven't seen much of that. So that's really the only comment I have.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
And we'll reconnect with you later. Go ahead, Roy.
Yes, so lastly, what we are also offering for the telecom is a project that we built with Samsung here in Israel, what we call the Phone for Kids, that give us the ability to offer a parent that want to buy the first phone for his kids. He can choose any devices, but now we offer what we call the Phone for Kids, the ability to offer a Samsung device that actually will include our protection service on top of the device in a way that once this device will open and connect to the internet, our profile will be deployed automatically. And when we offer it to the telecom, it's like a strategy project for them, because when I buy the first phone for my kids, I need to have the first SIM. And now they have a new channel to bring new customers and differentiate again their offering to this segment of kids' devices. Regarding the business model that we are working in the telecom, we call it the B2B2C models. When we as PureSight provide a fully hosted solution that does not require a lot of integration on the telecom infrastructure, provide the third level tier support, and we will talk about the additional component. And the service provider is in charge of marketing, billing the customers, providing usually the first and second level support. And what is required from the operator is to integrate via our provision API that give them the ability to create the account in our system and manage the license. Very easy integration that should finish in a couple of days. End user price list is between $4 to $10 US for a family package. And a business model that we are working with our customers is either a rev share model, license model, or a bundle as a family pack. question about this?
Okay, let's take questions. Please.
Are you approaching the telcos through like the channels, or how are you approaching the telcos?
How we approach the telecoms?
Yes.
So it's a combination. In some cases, we are approaching directly the telecom when we have the connection and we have the ability to do that. In other region, because we are actively global in the global market, we have local distributors, reps, integrator that working already with the telecom, and we are working with them and bringing our service to their customers.
So is this a sorry, go ahead, Paul.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
So is this a device feature? Is it like a network feature? I have a feeling that starting from the beginning, it's like something you install on the device. And in the US, of course, you have to go via the operators to install something on the device. But in other countries, you can directly sell to the device makers. Is that a fair question?
Yeah, so basically we can work on the two approach. Usually the easiest ones for us is to provide the application, either the parent application or the child application via the Apple, Google stores.
Right.
Again, the operator that sell the service, create the account in our system, and then send the link to download the application to the customer's mobile phone and start the journey. When we do it with Samsung, as I explained, when we sell our service with a new device, we have the capability to deploy the protection on this new device automatically without the need for the end user to install it. Okay.
But so have you considered like a launching, like maybe a co-branded with you and a device maker, like a children's phone, which is like
obviously
that's basically what it is. This is amazing. Actually, I'm just getting more excited and saying this. You can actually have a thing called the children's phone, where parents don't have to think about.
I'm not really hearing anything there.
Right.
Sorry, Paul. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
I can hear you now. Yeah.
So regarding the device for kids, we are working with a few manufacturers that distributor a phone for kids. Actually, this example of a small MVNO in Israel, that actually his model is to sell only phone for kids with a data plan that included the connectivity and the service that we are providing. And he become an MVNO just for kids. We have another manufacturer that want to sell kids devices without protection. So there is also this capability. But at the end, what we see, especially when the kids are growing by a bit, they will tell to the parents which model of the device they want him to buy. And when you are in this kind of situation, you want to also have a solution that will work on all the devices that the kids will have, and not a specific one. So it's a mix of combinations, different age will have different solution, and we are trying to provide a solution for all families of all ages of kids.
Perfect.
In terms of scaling, I know you mentioned telcos, you mentioned devices. You briefly mentioned before we started insurance, so pairing with, insurance providers. What else is on your roadmap and your thinking with that in terms of, bundling with other things?
So basically this is the main channels as you mentioned, but we also want to have access to direct to the B2C. With these kinds of solution, like the Samsung solution, we're approaching the retailers also. And our plan after we will finalize our next round is to have also approach the B2C via digital marketing campaigns because we see the potential of the market. At the end, our goal is to bring our solution to every family with kids of between age of 3 to age of 14. This is our market, and we see it as a standard, like a booster, a car safety in the car, that everybody that has kids in a certain age know that they need this solution. Our vision is that every parent with this understand that he will need to use these kinds of service in order to guide his kids on this platform. Because if I go to the analogy of the road, I do it all the time, because what I'm saying is the way we handle the road, it is very dangerous for our young kids, is that we cannot eliminate the dangers, okay? What we are doing is educate our kids how to handle the road, and we adjust the education based on the age of the kids. So when they are just starting to walk, and we are walking with them on the sidewalk next to a busy road, we are holding their hand. We will not left them alone. On age 3, 4, 6, depending on the parent, depending on the child, they will walk beside us. On a certain age, they will need to be able to pass the road by yourself. Same is with the digital platform. I see it as part of our digital life, okay? Blocking it, we can do it until a certain age, but it's part of our life, part of our social activity. So whenever our kids are starting this journey, we need to be there and help them and guide them and protect them in order to teach her how to behave in this world. So the goal is to be there on all to approach all families with these kinds of age of kids.
I think one of the problems you're going to I think one of the problems you're going to have there is that this is the problem some services have, is if you're successful and people don't see you and don't understand all the stuff that's going on in the background, why are they going to want you, right? So you've got all of this stuff going on in processes, but and so in America, I'll give you an example. I don't know if you've had a credit card stolen or not, right? So you get a call from MasterCard or Visa that says, "Are you in El Salvador or something?" And you're like, "No, I'm in home." And then I'll say, "Okay, we'll take care of it." And there may be thousands of dollars of charges. It may have been that you dropped your card at the airport or you put it online. So you may have some culpability. But in America, what happens is all those charges are eaten. I mean, at the most by law, you might get $50 worth of charges unless it was a debit card. And so what is the lesson you learn at the end of the day? It is not to be safer. What the lesson I learned when I'm traveling is I need to carry 2 credit cards, because when they cancel one, I need to use the other one. So we create this environment where there's a no fault, no harm. So when everybody is saying you need to be cyber safe, you need to be cyber secure, you need to do this, we're creating an environment so that you really don't. So your problem as this product is convincing people they need it and showing the value that you're actually, you're on the hamster wheel behind the scenes, spinning furiously, taking care of them and making sure that they understand that.
But do you think that parents don't understand about the dangers that the kids can face today? Because the statistics that we see is that, as I mentioned, that more and more parents, especially moms, at night take the kids' device because they are becoming very worried about what can happen to their kids. Cyberbullying, pedophiles, sextortion, all kinds of incidents that now parents understand that they happened. And the service that we are trying to provide is a very practical tool that you can use. It will not replace it. It's not a firewall for your kids. We are not saying that. We just provide you the information, so you will be able to know what is happening and then react on that.
Paul, did you, when you said this, I had the same answer. The problem has been well established for a long time. Children's safety is a common thing. But I guess you were saying is that if Royi offers this solution as a part of a telecom, people won't know this is his solution. Therefore, his branding and overall recognition in the market will get affected. Is that what you said?
Yeah. I mean, so I used to give a presentation where you talk about the attacks that are happening right now on the internet, and people can see numbers, like there's millions of them going on, but there are websites you can go to where they show live attacks. And when people see the live attacks on Microsoft headquarters, on the phone company headquarters all around the world, they're like, well, what is that? It's like, no, there's somebody trying to break in there right now. And so you have the sense of urgency when you actually see it. And I think as a product like that, people inherently understand the need for it. Getting them to act and actually buy it and put it in place is a different question.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a good sales and marketing kind of tactic. I've seen that geography map where it shows, all of the incoming attacks on things. But I think, as you're building out who you're partnering with to distribute, two things came to mind for me. Amazon Prime and families who purchase Disney, season passes or something along those lines,
Excellent
right?
idea.
Like, could you bundle this in, partner with them to have an offering, right? Trusted brand, adding on to, the safety to protect. It's kind of a good partnership on both sides.
What's the AARP for children, right?
Right. Yeah.
AARP has this tremendous branding program, and they can get seniors to buy anything. So how do you do that in this? How do you do that in this space?
Yeah.
That's quite an interesting insight and recommendation, Gaurav and Paul. Really, really appreciate that. And this is the reason why we want founders to get grilled by the experts so that they can rethink about their go-to-market strategy, their channel strategy. So really, really appreciate that. And any other thoughts that come to your mind on the solution differentiation, on scalability, on applicability in different markets? So obviously, Royi and team are doing really well in Israel. They are also trying to get their foot in the US market. But Amitabh, for example, how will this work for Indian market?
It's a universal problem. It's a universal solution, and Roy has an excellent solution for it. Applicability, it's like well understood. Every parent is concerned about their children. So the challenge that I see is, number one, is how do you model your business? Is it going directly to market, or do you co-branding with the operator, or you're co-branding with the device maker? You have to choose. I feel there is an answer in me, but that's something you have to choose. Which way do you go? Or you can directly go to B2C and then have an app. And then you can charge a subscription. I'll be happy to pay $5 a month also for each kid, as long as I have such answers like you are able to give. So, but the competition, I think this problem has been well defined for a decade, for 2 decades, I mean, forever actually, since the internet started. And the solutions have been there. There are child protection, there's locks and all that. I mean, even in the 90s, we had solutions. So the problem today that you would face in the market is your go-to market. Not as much, I don't know. I mean, I disagree with Paul saying that the problem has to be defined. Problem is extremely well established, and the market 45 billion, it could even be more, because you're looking at a smaller segment. So the addressable market is large. Your addressable market, or your part of the addressable market, is also very big. Actually, if you look at it, a fourth of a telecom market you can own, because considering children from, let's say, years of 5 up to 15 or 18. And then, but how do you bundle, and with whom you go to market? Do you go alone? Do you go with the operator? Do you go with the device maker? That is a decision to be made.
Yeah.
And what would be your recommendation for the Indian market? I mean, We have leaders like Airtel, Vodafone, Reliance, and so on and so forth. So these could be the better channel partners, or it could be somebody like AARP that we have in the US.
Well, AARP is a conceptual, I guess, I don't know if AARP would have an actual equivalent for children, but I think most of the markets, US market is different from the rest of the world. So it's not as much India and China and most of Asia are similar. South America is also similar. So there, I guess the device strategy would work because we buy devices we can choose to buy device anytime we want and just change the SIM card. We don't care to even inform the operator. The US, it's operator driven. So you have to go in the US via the operators and you have to work. It's much harder actually. So the three solutions: going to market direct is the easiest one, but your cost of market entry would be the highest because how do you actually spread your word? But then if you go via the device maker, like for example, Samsung, you already have some working relation, but go to any other, like all the BDK, BKD, that's like a whole Xiaomi and OnePlus and many others, Vivo, Oppo. These guys control 50% of the world market. And if you go with them, they will create a child-specific phone that any parent would be just happy to go and say, okay, I'm going to buy that phone. They don't understand how the app is working or how it is all inside working. Most parents don't understand the technology behind. They would just say, okay, this is a children's phone. It gives you everything that is allowed for children and nothing that is not allowed for children. Or if the children are doing something, I get to know. That's where you have your sale. Through the operators, it's going to be a little harder.
I think it's actually an advantage there, right? So there are children phones that you can buy, like, big button phones or limited access or stuff like that are out there, but they don't sell a lot. And a lot of the reason they don't sell a lot is because the children don't like them. Right. What kid wants to go to school with a baby phone? So Roy, on your end, you got a software solution. So you can work with the phone manufacturers and take an existing phone, and going back to earlier in the conversation, FirstNet is like that. When AT&T won FirstNet, they worked with Samsung and Apple to add the frequencies in. So every phone that you buy right now from Apple has the FirstNet frequencies built in. They only get activated when you get that service. So if you've got a software that can be loaded in at the manufacturer level, then you've eliminated the need for a separate phone the kids won't like. The adults will buy it knowing that it's safe for their kids, and then they can monitor it remotely. So I think that's an opportunity.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
I know this is supposed to be a roast session.
Sorry, I'm not very funny or mean. Sorry.
One question, Royi, what's your roadmap look like in terms of additional features? What else are you thinking? What's missing?
So this is a great question, because we see ourselves as a hub for online child safety, and we would like to be able to protect the kids on all the devices that are using. So now we are supporting a laptop, PC, tablet, mobile phone, but we have a smart TV at home. We have streamers at home that we already have now work that we are doing with these kinds of devices. So this is one aspect, to be a hub for all the devices that the kids are online, gaming consoles and other devices that we want to support. So as a parent, we want to have one place that you will be able to see all the activity of your kids, get all the information, and not need to support it different platforms. So this is one. The second one is that we understand that all the time the environment is dynamically. Now they are in Instagram or TikTok. Next month there will be another platform that we will need to cover, and so we are ongoing all the time, covering more and more platforms that the kids are using. And lastly is the content. we are focusing today in text and voice, but we want to also support the videos, although we are supporting TikTok, but we have all other additional content that we would like to cover in order to provide more information to the parents about the activity of his kids on this platform. So it's an ongoing task for us to continue and supporting new platform, new content.
Great.
Okay. Any final comment? Any piece of advice to Royi before we hang up the call?
I think that
Continue to
anytime
think
you're,
big.
sorry, go ahead, Tara.
Sorry, Paul.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tara.
No, I was just continue to think big and outside the lines. I mean, I think that's how we need to think for this type of thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara.
Yeah, mine was the same. I was like, anytime you're working on a product that makes things better, go for it, lean into it. You see so many things that are just common denominators bringing stuff down. I think this is a good place to be.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Yep, it's all good. I think your take is very good. It's just a matter of go to market. I guess you're already doing good with that now. Yeah. So all the best to you.
Thank you. Again, thanks a lot, everybody, for joining this session and sharing all these great insights about the innovations in the telco industry. It has been extremely, extremely meaningful, insightful. Really appreciate that. Royi, you have been a fantastic moderator. You did not cry, did not sweat during the roast session, which is a good thing. I think our panelists were extremely generous with their feedbacks.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Good conversation.
Yeah, but we will keep reconnecting and see how we can collaborate, support each other. So yeah, let's connect and probably jump on offline conversation later on and take it from there. Yeah.
Royi, where are you based?
We are located right now in Israel. This is our headquarters, but we are now opening subsidiary also in the States. So this is our plan.
Fantastic. All right.
Very good.
Thank you. Thanks everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care. Stay
Have a
safe.
great day.